welcome to the August 3rd Norwood Cultural Council meeting. We are going to jump into our agenda and just have a few updates and talk about a few plans for the end of the summer. I hope you guys are all doing well. And the first thing I believe on the agenda is a treasury update. Shalanja, I don't know if you had anything for us today.
So I just wanted to update everyone. We have received a couple of reimbursements throughout the first 6 months, and those have all been paid. So everything we received, I even went to the town hall and got our mail. We hadn't received any via mail. So any that were sent to us have been processed and paid. So so we are on track we're up to date as far as everything being outstanding. We did receive notifications that this is just to update you all in case you hadn't seen and we talked about some before, the Friends of Mustang Media, their program was canceled. I think we talked about that one last meeting. So that is $100 that will be reallocated towards grants this year. And we had a couple others. The Children's Museum in Easton, their Magical Science of Classic Fairy Tales was canceled. That was a program I think being done at the library. And we have 3 that have been postponed without the date. So Oldham Elementary programs, both of those have been postponed. And Tommy Roll, his has been postponed until FY21. So when we talk more about the upcoming grant cycle, we can talk more about that information. But that's all I've heard from. So we'll have to do some outreach to see if there's any updates from grantees and so forth as to whether it's been canceled, postponed, or whatever the case may be.
Did you have a chance to get a sense of how many are outstanding that we might not have heard from, or is everybody, it sounds like most people are kind of accounted for in some respect, right?
No, actually most we haven't heard from. So out of the, let me just see, out of the 33 programs, there are 20 that we have not heard from. So there's only 13 of them who have actually let us know that they're either postponing, they were held as planned, or or given a date. So there's about 20 of them that we have to reach out to. Oh, I'm sorry. Nope, 19, because I did hear from the concerts at the chapel from Old Parish, and they were granted for spring and fall concerts. But the spring one was full, but they're planning on holding the fall one, but didn't really know what the logistics of that were going to be and if it was going to, so they didn't want to say it was canceled yet. So more to come on.
So maybe we could have Amy and you could reach out and do to folks we haven't heard from and just say, hey, we know things are crazy, but if you had your program, we want to get you reimbursed. Please let us know if it's canceled or postponed. In the case of artists, which we don't have many most of ours are presenters, right? And schools are presenters. So we can, I'm assuming, reallocate that for another time. But if they've incurred costs or if it's an artist, again, I can't remember those right now, but then we can still help them out based on the recommendation of Mass Cultural. Would that be good if you hooked up with Amy and me offline, Shalon?
Yeah, we'll take care of some kind of communication to just get an update, at least. If they haven't decided, that's fine, just so we know to stay in contact with them. If it's been canceled, if it's been postponed. The and I don't know if this is part of what part of the agenda this may kind of fall into is the question that I have has to do with, I'm sorry, I have two screens if I'm not looking at you.
I never do
That how are we going to officially carry over this money? So the town money has been spent, and we're all set with that. And sorry, I'm getting a little echo. And let me see. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
I haven't seen that mentioned yet. I mean, we were going to talk about MCC updates next, so that's a good segue, actually.
Okay.
But I haven't seen it mentioned specifically about carrying over, but I think we would just probably add it to the total. What the main communications that have come out, you guys have, I think, gotten those emails, is that the whole grant cycle is going to be pushed back a month. And then we still won't know what our allocations are till like the beginning of the next year, because they don't know until the state budget is finalized. Is that what you guys understood? Which means that we are going to be encouraging, and Amy and I had a subcommittee meeting about doing some kind of a virtual workshop training for how to advise places in these times. But we have a little bit more time for that. But in terms of like how much they're going to be able to get, we're kind of working in the dark a little bit as to what the differences are going to be. Now, I guess ostensibly virtual programming wouldn't be as costly. So if the budget goes lower, then a lot of this programming we could still be able to help support, in a meaningful way. But there's a lot of unknowns there. So, Shalonda, I don't know if that's a town question about carryover or if it's a MCC question. What do you think from what you've talked about?
It's actually neither.
Oh, okay.
So the town money is spent, so we don't have any carry forward there. The state money, the people who are canceling, that's going to go in towards year's money. That's fine. I'm sorry, I'm getting a bad echo. I'm losing my train. Then the problem is the people who are carrying over their programs into next year. So the question that I have is, if someone like Tommy Roll has canceled, his program's going to take place in the spring of 2021, which is technically in next year's grant cycle. Would he be allowed to apply for funding, or would we do funding for him in this year's grant cycle? So he has his grant amount that goes for a program next year. Could he get an additional grant, or if we didn't fund someone at 100%, could they apply for additional funding towards their program? So some of these questions we have to think about, since I'm thinking a lot of programs are going to carry over into 2021. And we just need to make a decision and make it fair across the board, that, what we think would be most beneficial to each of the programs.
That's a good question. I can't imagine most of them are going to fit into this new reality that we are living in. But I would almost, but I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts, but I can talk to Timothy about it. But I would think reapplying makes sense, just because we don't know what all the parameters are going to be. And if it's just very, I can't imagine that like it's just going to be a delayed thing for most of them. It would have to be something different. And so we would need to sort of reassess our approval if it's something super different. If it was just like we've already talked about, if it was this like a virtual storytelling and it's the same, like the bullshit, that's an easy yes. But if they're, yeah, I mean,
It's more of if they're doing their same program and carrying it over into 2021, because it looks like a lot of things and social gatherings and stuff will probably be limited through the fall, that then we can continue to let them have their funding for one more year. So essentially, if their grant is supposed to be spent by December 31st of this year. If not, then are we allowing them an extension through December 31st of next year? I just wasn't clear on when they had to have their program by, because some of them are going to carry over into the spring. So do we give them an extension till June 30th, the end of our fiscal year? Otherwise, the money has to be forfeited and they have to reapply. I don't know if we really last time didn't think that far out, thinking that this might be cleared.
So let me just ask Denise a question, because she has some familiarity with the way, like, at least with the schools, these things work. Like, and COVID would make it different. But Denise, wouldn't like these artists have a whole new schedule of bookings? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, typically they do have, depending on the artist, they could, you're fitting into a schedule that is a very full one, but they could potentially, everything's kind of blown up and different. So, it's very hard to make a determination. I think it's maybe the kind of thing where we have to, like, you almost have to like know that it's an open question, but then kind of wait to see how things go. So I kind of like, my sense is that we're going to be in kind of a funny spot till I'm hoping it will be done by next spring, right? And then we can kind of get back to whatever the new normal is going to be. And then once like things get back and working the way schools typically work, or life kind of works, and I think then we can say, all right, so then you have 6 months more to have this grant, or we could just make the decision that if it's not used by the end of this year, that they forfeit it and we put it back in the pot, but knowing that they full well that they can reapply.
Yeah.
And if they reapply, do they have priority? The ones who canceled, are they going to be a higher priority than new applicants?
Yeah, we could do that.
We could do that.
Yeah, we just have to make a decision.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that if they spend it by, giving a 6-month extension beyond what our norm is, and they can, because some programs are going to get pushed to the spring, they can keep their grant until June 30th. Their program has to take place by June 30th and submit their reimbursements by then for our FY20, our current cycle. Otherwise, the money would be forfeited. They can then reapply and would be given priority if they weren't able to successfully do their program.
May I ask a question?
So
if they were given the extension to June 30th, they would be using the money that we gave them this spring, right? And if they don't use it, they give it back, and then they reapply to get money for next year to do the program next year, right? Is that what you're saying?
Right. Yes.
I'm wondering, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to think of, go ahead. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, and so
I'm trying to think it through.
yeah, I am too. So if say you have Oldham who has a musician performance scheduled, I think they had, but that's canceled now. So say they're going to hold out till spring to say they can bring that same one back. but they also want to apply for additional FY21 money because they want to do a virtual storyteller. We could do both of those things. The one would be a separate separate application process, and then the one would be carryover. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's okay then. I think we have time to let's communicate with the outstanding ones, find out where they're at, figure out like what's going to be, what questions might be coming. But there's a little bit of time before you have to tell people like, you have to, this is going to be, you're going to give it up.
So if they give it up,
Yeah.
and then that means they would get priority in the applying this fall. But if they don't give it up, they would not necessarily get priority, right? If they use the money in the spring, so they would not be in the priority list, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And by priority meaning, by priority meaning that, they gave back the money. So we want to fund them and want to give them money. We don't want to take it back. So it would be, if you're going to,
that makes sense.
You could do another one.
Right.
Okay.
Because actually, if they didn't get it done by June, it would already be past the grant cycle. So yeah. Okay.
Right.
Cool.
Okay. So that makes sense. Were there any other MCC updates that anyone else wanted to highlight besides the delayed grant cycle? Or any other questions that you guys have been thinking about, or are we ready to move to the next agenda?
I'm with me.
Okay, so Amy couldn't be here tonight, but I'll just give you a quick recap of what we talked about on our grants team update. So she did we had originally discussed doing a workshop in August for grantees to encourage them about see whatever questions they had, and then encourage them, maybe give them some ideas for the grant application process based on our priorities and all of that good stuff. Obviously everything's a little bit different now, so we wanted to still offer something virtually. It could be, early September now. We want to be mindful of what's going on with different school schedules before we nail down the date. But what we wanted to start with was reaching out to principals for PTO contacts, and Amy did that so that she can reach out to them and say, we know your world is upside down right now, but how are you looking at enrichment, and how are budgets being impacted, and just to get what they're thinking at all at this point. So I think she heard back from a couple people, and some of the feedback that I've heard is that at the beginning of the school year, probably there's not going to be energy for it or time for it, or a focus for it, but probably most people would be looking for spring to do things, and obviously they're going to be looking for what can be done virtually. And I think a lot of those vendors are gearing their content virtually, but I don't have a sense of what costs or what people are going to be applying for at this point. So we're information gathering there so that we can give better advice when we have that sort of virtual session. And if you have any thoughts on timing on that, that'd be helpful too for schools.
Do we have a contingency plan in case the schools open for a week and then close?
We don't, because I don't think that even if they were doing hybrid, I don't think they would apply for enrichment that only half the kids could see. I'm sure that whatever enrichment they have might be virtual, or they'd have to be really creative about things. So
yeah, so it'd be for the spring anyway, so that doesn't really matter.
I would think whatever they would apply for would need to be
I just feel for you moms with kids at school age now, it's just wow. talk about stress. What's going on? You know?
Yeah, it definitely feels like no matter what is decided is sort of perilous. So that's sort of in process, the grants team thing. And if you guys have any extra thoughts about like questions we should be asking them, or as we get closer to that, well, I guess it's August, probably we'll do a subcommittee meeting. And so you guys let me know if you want to be part of that in terms of putting together that content for the schools. But the other thing is that Timothea, they were conducting an LCC meeting focus group where they were going to talk to regional LCC reps and get questions and that was like maybe a week ago or last week. And so we'll get an update on that too. So that should be, I don't know, shed some light on sort of the lay of the land, I guess, for what other communities are wondering about and what their approaches might be. So next on the agenda is the kite project.
I have one question before we move on. So before COVID, obviously, we were talking about doing, a workshop for everyone, but it sounds like now we're gearing some kind of virtual workshop just for the schools. Why is that? Or is this going to be open to everybody?
No, it's just that I didn't mention that because we haven't talked about it yet, but we can still do something like that. I think it's more like maybe even that information we get about that LCC meeting, or if we can talk as a grants team about what we would want to, encourage, we can certainly offer that as well. Yeah, I'm not saying we weren't doing one. I was just, it's, it'll be different than what we could still do two. We could still do it as an open Zoom. We could do it as just like a sharing of information.
Well, I think I'm just more confused about what exactly we're doing, because this is the first time, and I might have missed a meeting or some information somewhere in translation about, it was more of trying to gauge them in how to submit the applications and all of that kind of stuff, how to reach out to the community, get more partnership and that kind of stuff all together. So that was the original workshop, but now it seems like the focus has changed. Even, that could take place whether it was online or in person. So
yeah,
it could be more of a webinar type thing now that it's online. But I just want to make sure that we still want to encourage individual artists to do programming, even if it is virtual, for Norwood and in Norwood and Norwood artists, rather than us backpedaling just to get enrichment to the schools.
Yeah, I see that as our doing both, I guess. I think that, I don't know, Denise and Kate, you just start, and I don't know, Arati, because you've got a young kid, but I can see you working on the schools, especially Denise, you know what's going on there. From the administrative point of view. But I do think that we need to make a concerted effort, I agree, Shanj, to the artistic community, especially since we had done some teasers in the spring before all of this Uncle COVID nonsense. And I'd be willing to help with that in some form. Even if it were something, this sounds really probably stupid, but even if it were a link they could go to and listen to a presentation, and then the next night or something be able to call in with questions or do something like that, instead of making it like a 2-hour long thing. To me, ours have been, So I don't know, but I think that's something we could play with. I think that would be very
definitely
important.
Yeah. I
Alrighty, you know artists too, so
certainly didn't intend to convey that we wouldn't do that anymore or that anything had changed. What I know is that we have enrichment folks who've been already asking to some extent about this, so we're just going to need to be able to answer some of those questions. So that was just top of mind
Yeah.
for me. And in terms of like what's even feasible. So for like public, so we just need to develop that content. And it's again, it's just going to be how do we steer it differently and during the time of COVID. And I think I was going to bring this up in the addendum, but there's a lot of cool things you could do in terms of like public art and things that don't require you to have a performance or gather together. But this is something that needs to be like worked on in terms of us doing that presentation, giving advice on a weird year anyway, and then also trying to find how to direct people in this context. But so we would do the same work, but just knowing that it's going to be somewhat different.
And Kate, if I
Yeah.
may, we should all keep in mind our council priorities, which was not just programs for the school, but also community and the local artists. And I know last year we did a community survey to outline these priorities. I assume we're just keeping those the same for the next fiscal year. I don't know how often we should be doing that. Was it 2 years or 3 years? Guidelines.
You can do it every year, but it's required every 3 years, I believe.
3, okay.
I can think of a lot of things artists could do virtually, especially musicians. I just don't know what would make sense for them to show the final product. That's all. Because you know how like they have these wonderful things where people are playing or singing a song together, but they're all in their own places, you know, and they're either singing part of it or got their own instrument and stuff. I could just see that happening in Norwood, and but I don't know where then would it then be on a website someplace or our website or go to the schools? I mean, be on the library website, the town. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of, but never. I won't get us bogged down on that. But I'm just.
Well, and what our
That's
role
my
would be
kind
is to try and like inspire someone to organize something like
Yeah.
that, right? Like, we would say, here's some idea. I mean, we could always say like, here's some ideas, but like somebody has to then do it. And we've got a
Sure.
couple projects that we're sponsoring that we're going to
Mhm.
talk about. But
Yeah.
how do you plant this into people's head, especially when they are, you know, stressed out about their kids' schooling or they're, not
Adults
working.
not making money, artists not making money. Yeah. I know
Right,
about
but maybe so it's both an opportunity and a challenge in that sense. Like, how do
Yeah.
we reach people and support the community and accomplish our mission while being sensitive to like the environment people are dealing with? But yeah, we can work on that in that subcommittee meeting, which is what needs to happen in the next probably couple weeks after, and I would assume after we have another talk with Timothea with some more input from her.
Mm.
Anything else about the workshops other than like we setting a date for that meeting with Amy, and then whoever wants to help with that could join that.
So it's going to be one workshop, one meeting about both types of workshops, or are you going to use the same workshop for both?
Yeah, because I would think that you would want to reuse most of it, right? Like a lot of it in terms of just the real informational stuff. And then you could bifurcate like information for this crowd and this crowd.
Okay.
And I think we can talk about it there, but I think we really need to be realistic about like how we want to make this available and use people's time. Can we create some kind of a presentation that is inviting them to reach out to us? Or do we set up, a 2-hour Zoom call? I don't know, those are the types of questions that the committee can talk about and see what makes sense for what's after we start talking to people. And listing like what arts organizations we can reach out to, like the Norwood Arts Association or the Space Center, so we can reach those artists that we've talked about as well. So it's going to be letting them know it's happening. Like, how do we get them the information or the fact that it's happening? So all those details. Okay. So anything else about grants, team? Okay. So we met as a subcommittee. Mary Paz, Denise, and Arati and I did once, and then Arati and Denise and I met last week as well about doing the kite event. And the headlines there are that the library is excited to co-sponsor it with us. And this is good for a couple of reasons. It reaches a wider audience in that sense, and they have all of the mechanisms in place already for registration, as well as curbside pickup. So I'll let Denise fill you in about the kite place that we found, but essentially we just need to figure out what the turnaround time is on the kites. But once we vote on whether or not we want to do that and spend the money on it, there would be a little bit of a timeline that would basically follow. Like, once the vote is there, we pick the dates that we want to start curbside pickup, and based on that, we announce it and see how people are registering. And then we encourage people through social media to tag themselves and on the different platforms that we'll be sharing it to sort of share that it was awesome. So Denise, do you want to fill them in about the kites?
So I talked to the people that developed Kites on a Roll, which is the company that we found, and the open questions that we had was basically, how soon can we get the kites? And from the day we order them, she said she sends them out the door that day, and that in the past, they're coming from Ohio, it's a 2-day ground ship, we would have had it, but things as they are now, shipping takes a bit longer. It's like, I know over the winter, I send things to Florida all the time, and it usually takes me 2 days for things to get to Florida, and it was taking 5 days. So yeah, I think we have to build in a little time, but she basically said she'll ship immediately. So we'll have it somewhere between 2 and 5 days.
Okay.
And then what that would involve is, once the kites get here, then they need to be broken out into a kit. So we'd have to, assemble them, put in the kite, the tails, the string, and there's like two, let me think, like little pieces of wood that basically support the kite. We'd have to put those in there too. So we basically put the kit together, and she said that she's been saving these special packaging that she has, and that for no extra charge, she'd send us as many pieces of packaging we want, so that we could put the kites together and individually package them, so we can just, get the kits together. And then if a family orders 3 of them, we just throw 3 in a bag with their name on it, and they're set to go.
Now, were these cheaper than the ones that Arati found, or because
Much.
Were they? Oh, okay.
And
Well,
they're the kind of kites that we want on top of it. We don't want a diamond kite.
These were good too, though. Yeah.
They were a diamond kite, though, and we do not want to do a diamond kite. We want to do a sled kite. So
Yeah,
the diamond, that we're going to save the diamond kite for when we do a big event with people, so that we can have people assemble. It's just that there's a chance, based on talking to now 2 different kite companies, that with the diamond kite, there is some margin for error. And once you tape the kite together, once you put it together, getting it apart without ripping it is almost impossible. I mean, it can be done, but you have to do it with a razor blade and whatever. And do we really want people to be doing that? No. So a sled kite is like the perfect, easy kite to do. On top of it, this company has a YouTube, like, basically tutorial that is so simple. And in like 3 minutes, you know how to put the kite together, how to fly it, how to decorate it. They include a sheet of paper that basically talks about the cultural influence of kites. It's a little bit of the history of kites. They have a whole handout on kite safety, which is this woman who runs this company, like, has such a passion for it and has done it for so long. She has basically figured out exactly how to make kites and do kites with large groups, and that's what we want, you know.
Yeah.
And they will take them back, so that if they come in a roll of 20, so that if we have unopened rolls, we can return them to her.
So we're gonna order 5 rolls, 100, or what's the guesstimate?
So if we do order 6 rolls, we get a teeny price break, and it's like $3 per roll. So, you know, you'd save like $18, you know, which is, you know, not huge money, but, you know, there's a savings there.
Right.
But we can order whatever we feel we want to order. And we could wait and kind of float the idea out and basically say, you know, we're taking orders or doing it for like this week period. And then basically, based on how many orders we get, probably 3 or 4 days in, we can probably estimate how many we're going to have and do the order, so that they'll, you know, we're not really jumping the gun too much, that we'll kind of know and have a sense that, wow, it's great, people love it, and we need 200 kites, or we can scale back a little and just order 60.
So the paper, it's on a roll. So we're putting it, I mean, would they fit in like freezer bags, you know, gallon bags, or what?
She is going to send us these
Send some
bags
back.
that she has, that she's been holding on to, and we'll put the 2 sticks, the basically like kite skin, the tails, and the string, and we'll just wrap it all up and put it in one little bag, so that one bag will be one kite kit.
Does she give a little piece of wood to wrap the string on, or what? You know, for the kids.
The strings all come on these special paddles. I mean, it's really professional looking.
Paddle, that's what I mean. Yeah.
There's no question about it. It's
Great.
like a little handle with string. It's a paddle of string.
What's the name of her company again?
Kites on a Roll.
Kites on a Roll. Okay.
Is there a start date and end date when the library is giving these out or having the curbside pickup? Or is this just ongoing?
They're waiting to hear from us what we, you know, in terms of when we could get them and what we want to do. So I think we want to make it as easy as possible for them. And I was assuming with the curbside, the way they do it is you have to register for time slots. So we probably could give it, I'll have to ask her, but I think they're flexible. Like, does she want it spread out over 3 days, or do you want it all in one day? I would think you would do at least a couple days. But they're gonna help with, you know, how we direct that. So.
And they're great at advertising, and they'll get in touch. You know, the children's librarian, I'm sure, will, you know, help with that. I mean, that'd be great.
They also offer to supplement any of the educational materials too. So
yeah,
I
was going to ask about that, you know, so.
Yeah, and Denise, I don't know if your contact could send us, if we could see ahead of time the informational sheet, just so that we can, like Arati made the point of some of the cultural notes that we might want to emphasize. So I'd love to use what they have, but also see if we want to add anything. And Kate Teague in the children's libraries said she has like plenty, and she's ready to help us narrow down, like if we want to share links to videos about the culture of kites, or, you know,
or at least the books. That's great.
The books, yeah. I mean, apparently there's a lot there. So let's see with what they're offering, and then how we might complement it. I think probably the one thing we want to do is not put too much in the bag, though. So like, they have a 1-sheeter. You know, do we add a little half sheet ourselves? Do we combine them so it's only one thing? That's the next question, I think, for not doing too much paper, you know, for people. But
okay, so I can
post that information. The contest, right? They have the kite flying contest, and the kids put glass down the string, the tails, so that they can cut the other person's kite out of the sky. I thought that was pretty cool. They do that, but we won't give them glass.
Yeah, that was in the book, The Kite Runner.
Yeah.
Right?
Actually, I'd seen this a couple years ago when I was at a children's museum. I was doing research on kites, because we build kites with the kids and all of that, so that they could fly around inside the museum. So anyhow, I love kites.
Oh, wow. Okay, so
so I will call the woman from Kites on a Roll back tomorrow and ask her if she would be willing to share her information with us. But let's just keep in mind we haven't purchased anything from them yet, so it's a weird ask. Or she may be
Well,
I'm
should we
sorry,
just go
assuming
ahead and
that we
do this? I mean, it's already August. I mean, the first week of August. When is that? When did the kids go back and stuff?
So what I wanted to do is
Ostensibly?
September
September
16th
16th.
is the push, is when school starts now. Because
Okay,
it's, so
right.
what we would do is vote tonight on whether or not to spend the money. And then we pull the trigger and then we do the next steps. So
Right.
we can talk about if we want to buy 100 and then get I think we just buy some and then see how the reception goes. And then if we need to add. If,
Okay.
Or do the 6, like Denise said, for the savings. Why not? Yeah, because,
savings
right?
is 120, right?
Yeah, yeah, at 120 we'd save like $18. It's not a huge savings. And we would have to, if there's extra, we have to decide whether to keep them and maybe use them at our kite event. Like if we had a situation where you had like maybe someone who's younger who wanted to do a kite or just do something different, we could potentially offer it that way. But we would have to, or decide to send them back, and we'd have to send them back and do that part.
For 6 rolls, it's 42 a roll or 41. What was it?
Let me look. Hang on, I had it right in front of me. It's 45 a roll if we get 6 rolls rather than 48 a roll.
So spending $270 plus shipping, right?
Yep.
So Shalon, I'm thinking we have around, oh, I'm sorry, I have a bad memory of it, but 1,400 or something like 1,200 for projects of our own.
1,300. Well, yeah, 1,300.
Okay. So I think that's doable, especially given most of our advertising is just going to be social media for the most part. We can do some flyering of it if we want to, but to make sure we're reaching a broader audience. But even then, printing costs, if you add, what's our limit here? Like $350 that we'd be comfortable with all in, or I'm just saying numbers. What do you guys think?
Well, you're talking about a case of either $240, I guess, for 5 rolls or $270 for 6. So that's 100 as opposed to 120. I don't know. I'd go for either this 5 or 6. And I think that, like I said, the library does a good job. I don't know if we'd want to post ask the different grocery stores or whatever to post a thing, because that's where families go.
Right.
I don't. Yeah.
Or
And I mean,
But to that note again, like we're at a really different point in time right now. I don't think there's really anyone stopping at the bulletin board at the supermarket, or they're not going to the Civic. We're not going to all the places where we see flyers anymore. I think
Right.
we need to concentrate our efforts through the library and maybe some social media, and then I think call it a day, because I just don't think you're not going to get your bang for your buck at all.
oh, I guess I wasn't thinking of the bulletin board. I was thinking that they would very nicely put a poster on the indoor and the outdoor. But I'm dreaming, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So as far as budget-wise goes, I would say if I were to give a recommendation, $330 is about 25% of our budget that we have available. So, sticking somewhere around there, as far as, and I think I looked at it and it was at $45, if we ended up with the 6, is $270. So then that gives us an additional $60 for printing and whatever other things we need. So
Do we have
I
this
don't know.
money till June? Is that what it is? We have the money till June?
No, we have this money for, it's just an account.
What-
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, one of the things that I forgot to mention that we discussed in our meeting was that we would also solicit that people could do a donation to the Cultural Council, and for like $5 a kite, suggested if they can, like a pay what you can donation. And so we might recoup some of the costs that we could then put into other
That'd be great.
projects. The library just said that they would not handle money. So I wanted to ask you guys about if anybody knows about how to like set up, or Solange, like if it would be
In there.
like the best way to process that. Like I'm thinking Venmo is the easiest thing, but like, because I think PayPal's a real pain in the.
PayPal's a real pain, and the
Yeah.
fee that they charge is ridiculous.
So
Yeah, they charge you.
the question for us to mull over is how to allow people to do that easily. If most people are finding us on Facebook, do you use that Facebook money? Some people aren't comfortable with that. I'm not sure.
So
I can
would-
look into it. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry,
Denise.
sorry, Solange. Would one of us be able to be there during the pickup with the library or not?
I don't know. I know they were really concerned about safety protocols, like they didn't want us to join their pop-ups because of that, but
Okay,
now they're open too. So
right.
maybe we have our own table or something.
Well, I was kind of thinking have a table and then we can put a jar up, because honestly, all of those things there's going to be a fee associated. You have to associate with a bank account. It's just not, it's complicated to do
Yeah.
anything but cash.
Okay, let me ask Kate about that, and then maybe what we'll just do is for the pickup times, like try to have us there, masked with the bags and everything, and then have a jar.
I do know something about donating on Facebook though. So I could look into that, because we could do that and then they would send us a check. We wouldn't have to do like a direct wire or anything like that. And any donations that are done, we just couldn't. I mean, that's something that we should probably do anyway in case people just want to do general donations. So be happy
Does
to
the
look into
trustees
that, see if we can get.
Do you guys use it for the trustees? Is it?
We actually do not, but we used it at the Boston Foundation, and so I was involved with, that and stuff. We had it connected that, we got a electronic payment, but yeah, it can be set up. I would just have to set up the organization with Facebook.
Okay.
To be able to do that as a charity. So I'll look into it to see if we can do it, and how that might go about. It'd be good to at least have a donate button on our page anyway.
Sure. Okay, cool. So for kites, it sounds like, okay, we're talking about the money. There is some money associated with the photo project as well. So I don't know if we want to wait to vote on the kites until after we get done talking about the photo contest in terms of the money. Is that okay? If I move into photo contest now. Okay, and we can go back to kites as well. I mean, think of these as like, complementary timelines, complementary work effort. So I think during Art Week, we had shared the idea that came up from the Art Week team about doing a Norwood photo contest. We saw this as something that we could do to a virtual contest to celebrate Norwood. That would, be an easy thing to do online, and also a potential engagement piece, as well as a potential fundraiser, depending upon how we frame the contest. In other words, we would say you have to agree that any image that you share would potentially be used to fundraise. So sometimes artists, we certainly would be upfront about that so that an artist would know, or an amateur too, just so that they know that their image might be used, like we might sell a print of it or put it in a Norwood calendar or something like that. So the framework of that, Arati and Denise and Mary Paz, correct me, jump in here, but is that we would set up 5 categories essentially for people to take pictures around these themes or ideas. And then we'd give them a date for submission. Then we would invite 5 judges that were civil servants or artists or educators or just folks sort of more well-known or that have some prominent role in the community to go through all of those files and pick their top choices of each category. And then we would submit, and we would use Google Drive to do this. They would email them to the Norwood@gmail account, and then we would set up the drive with the different category files anonymously, and then we would share those with the judges, and then we would determine the finalists, and then the finalists would be put out to the community for the community to vote on their top picks, and then we would give prizes to the top picks of each category, $50 or something. So that's another $250, right? If we have 5 categories. So that's essentially, am I getting it right, you guys? Did I forget
What are
anything?
the categories, Kate?
Oh, I wrote that down and I'm looking for that list, but one of them is Norwood at Night. One of them is People of Norwood. Oh, and we were having trouble landing. We want some ideas from you guys because I don't know where my notes are. You guys help me remember. People of Norwood.
The doors,
Norwood at
maybe
Night,
the doors or the
like-
architecture or something.
Yeah, like hardscapes and then softscapes. Like we wanted to do like Norwood nature, and then some kind of an architectural piece, like buildings, or whether you like a door or a gate or a street corner or a sign. So like that was essentially it.
What was the 5th one? I thought the 5th one was the doors. Wasn't that already the doors? Were you at that meeting? Whoops, she's not there.
We threw the outdoors idea. We liked it, but then we threw it out. Basically,
Oh, okay.
and I think we went back to like architecture.
Okay. So then that's only 4 though. People,
And then we talked about pets. Everybody likes pets.
And I think, didn't we talk about having a category for like teenagers, like anyone under 15 or 12 or something?
Oh, right. So like the youth category.
Yep.
So
Yes.
12 and under. Hi, Chris.
Hello.
Hi, Chris.
Talking about the photo contest. So
Great.
People of Norwood, Norwood at Night, hardscapes or like architecture.
nature here.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
trails or whatever, landscapes,
Yeah.
and then youth.
And then
So it's not youth. We're not taking pictures of youth. It's the youth taking pictures.
Yes, and
The
they
young
can.
photographers entry. Okay.
Yeah.
young photographers, I like it. How will we know if they're young? I guess we'll just
Ask them. That's all.
On their
Yeah.
honor.
in their honor. So that, and then we thought like a $50 prize for each. I don't know if that's too rich for our blood. Shalon's thoughts on that, or if we should go, $25 each, or. But then we would.
That's- Oh, I was just gonna say, that's fine. However, so the whole idea of giving, well, if we pay the youth, that would have to come out of, so the issue with paying all of these is we would need them to fill out W-9s. We can't pay someone under the age of 18, having them fill out W-9s just for a myriad of reasons. So what we could do is that category could be paid out of petty cash. So that's how
Either that or
we
we
do
could,
that one.
a winning thing would be we would print their photo and put it on display someplace. I don't know where.
Yeah, like the.
Yeah.
Well,
But just
around-
something to keep in mind, we would have to have paperwork, and because I know that when it was an issue with the logo, we never paid Emily. She did not want to give us a W-9.
I
So
think she was confused that she would be taxed, but under 500 for a 1099.
under 5.
Yeah, but
You
I
don't
wonder
get a
if
1099.
prize money is different. Like, I wonder if we could use petty cash for prize money.
We
like
don't
a-
have enough.
But we might after the kite thing.
If we get donations and we want to put that directly towards it, that's fine. We can do that. If we get cash donations, we can go ahead and
I see,
But it-
I see, because it's about accounting for the money
right.
for the taxes.
Yeah, because we only have, well, because we can't write them a check. unless we set them up as a vendor with the town.
Can
And
we
setting
buy-
up as a vendor with the town it doesn't mean they're going to get taxed. It just means they have to be able to cut the check to someone and put them in the accounts payable system in order to do that.
Okay.
So
Maybe this is a dumb question, but can we buy gift cards?
Alrighty, your sound isn't on.
we can buy gift cards, but we can't.
You are.
I'd have to look into.
I wonder if it might be able to get
I think
around it by
Robbie is
buying.
muted. Hold on one second. Let me.
Do you need to be closer?
Jackson, stop it.
All right, let me just, Arati, say something. We can't hear you. Mm-mm.
We'll have to hold up cards.
No sign language?
Huh. What? That's weird. We still can't hear you. You can text me. Oh no. Hold on, let me text her.
Does she have to be invited? But she's there.
No. Everybody controls their own, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's her mic, but
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna text her, and then in the meantime, gift cards was thrown out there. That's potentially an idea. I would think they should be like Norwood businesses. And again, the issue there is like are people going out to Norwood businesses? I mean,
But I mean, we could just buy a Visa gift card. I mean, just make it plain, simple, clean.
okay.
Done.
Yeah.
How would that transaction work, Slange? Okay.
yeah, I'll have to see how we can do that, because essentially I think it would have to be a reimbursement. So I have to figure out if we're able to do that, but also keep in mind there's a $10 charge for every Visa gift card too.
Oh, $5,
So-
I thought. $4.95.
And I think if you get them at AAA, that they waive the fee.
Oh, really?
I
Maybe
think
they
so.
need $25 each instead of 50. I don't know.
Okay.
Isn't there like there's a comment balloon? Maybe already you can comment in the balloon or something. Type it in.
Oh, Arati, you could call in with your phone too.
She's saying she's muted with host but I don't even.
Who's going in and out the door?
Hold on.
Sorry, I have a 16-year-old who's a pain in the rear, so that's what
Okay.
he just wants to be seen. I'm gonna mute.
That's okay. My cat came through twice, so
I saw your cat walking back and forth.
like blob go by. Yeah.
She's muted. I don't have you as muted. I'm so sorry. I don't know what it is, but everybody's the same. Hold on.
Her microphone icon is showing as on
Yeah.
Yeah.
screen.
She's showing that the host has muted her. I'm so sorry. I don't know what the heck. So she had suggested a book. She was basically saying the same thing, like a book gift card. So some kind of we'll see what we can do in terms of like how the transaction would work to purchase books, or whether or not we could, to purchase Visa cards so that people.
And we can also work out the logistics, out offline what the logistics would be, and just vote on what a budget would be.
Okay.
So like you said, it was, if we did 5 prizes of the $50, that's a budget of $250. If we wanted to build in any additional $50 for fees or whatever stuff may come up, we can do that and have a budget of $300 for this event. So, and then we can work out all the logistics of how we would do all of that stuff.
Right.
So
I think that sounds great. So we can vote on that, and then we can talk a little bit about timeline. Or do you want to?
And the judges too, because I was thinking Ernie Pertowski, what is his position with the town? Because he likes photographs. He does a lot of great photographs. I thought he'd be a good judge.
That's a great idea. He's on the planning board, and
Okay.
he is that is a hobby of his.
Yeah.
Okay. So first, does anyone have so we talked about 300 for the kites, right? That would be for 120 kites plus a little bit of padding for supplies.
I thought we said $330.
Yeah, 330 or 350. I thought, yeah.
330 is I had looked at it as 25% of what our current budget is.
Okay, 330, 25% of the budget.
Okay.
And then the amount for the photo contest was 250, and plus we're padding that with, you said, what did you say?
$50.
I just rounded it off to $50.
300. Okay, so
Whatever costs.
do those need to be separate motions, or can they be part of the same? They probably need to be separate. Someone want to make a motion for the kite project?
Make a motion for
All right,
the kite project, $330.
Shall I second?
Second it.
Okay, great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. All those opposed? Okay, great. So that passes. We'll figure out the details, but we are budgeting for $330 for the kite project, in collaboration with the library. Does someone want to make a motion for the Norwood photo contest for the month of
Motion that we
September?
budget $300 for the photo contest, which includes prize money and extras for whatever.
Second.
Second.
Great. I'm sorry, Mary, pause. For me, the microphone messed up, and just since we're recording, could you say your motion again, please?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I would like to propose that we budget $300 for a photo contest on photos of Norwood, $250 for prizes, and $50 for extraneous materials.
Second.
And that was second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Great, motion passes. That's great. So if we could talk about timeline for just a moment. Sounds like we can get the kites within 2 to 5 days. And so my next steps for that are to share language with the subcommittee and then the library to announce the contest. What we need to hone in on is when we want to target the so we're launching it and announcing it, but what date we want to say people can pick up and when we want people to buy their kites and post about it. That's going to be obviously have a range to it. So if we're looking at, since we voted yes, we can go ahead and order them. And I'm assuming, Denise, you'll purchase and then Shalon will reimburse you. Okay.
Sure.
So then we would, we talked about that. So by the end of this week to have language to launch the earliest launch by like Friday, but I would need to talk to Kate if that works for them in terms of the registration. So either at the end of this week or early next week to give a registration period.
Mm-hmm.
And then
How long does it take for us to actually assemble these kits when we get the raw materials?
I'm gonna
easy
do it here at
thing?
home. I don't think it'll take me very long at all.
Oh, you don't want us doing it together or whatnot?
I mean, you can if you want, but I'm just figuring it's one of those things that I'll sit in front of the TV one night and cut them all.
Okay, thank you.
or if you would like help, we could do it outside in my backyard
Okay.
or somebody's yard.
Yeah, or mine. Yep.
Don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's a big deal. I watched her do it. They have a instructional video. It looks like it'll take a couple minutes each. I don't think it'll be a big deal.
Okay.
If I get overwhelmed, I'll let you know.
So what do you guys think? We launch it online and we let people register, and then they would arrive by the midweek next week.
Yep.
So pick up like the week of the 17th. Is that too early?
I think that sounds good.
So if I order tomorrow, tomorrow's date is the 4th,
Yeah.
and worst case
You mean the
scenario, it
7th?
takes 7 business days to get to me, which will be 9
12.
days from now, the 12th, and then
Yeah.
a day. So that's fine.
So just a question out of curiosity, are we saying to do the pickup around the 17th? Start then? Because what I'm thinking is that we need some time to get the news out there. So I would say like a week or two to do that, maybe push it to the last week of August. I don't know.
Okay.
So the
The week of the
24th.
24th.
Although
Yeah.
maybe just want to see how
Wanna
soon
get
the
who-
library can send something out. If you can get the language to them, Kate, by, in a few days, it should be plenty of time. You just don't want to get into like the Labor Day weekend thing. And again, it's a whole different timing for all of us, but
Yeah, the
Um,
week
know,
before that.
I think at this
Just-
point, it depends on what the library is comfortable with. If we tell them,
Yeah.
okay, get you everything, what
Yeah.
can you do? You know, what's
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
but
want
maybe-
to. We don't want to get into Labor Day, but we want to give ourselves enough time that people can sign up for their slots. People can know about it, tell their friends about it.
Yeah.
Hey, we're getting a kite. You guys should get a kite too. So we want to be able to give ourselves enough time to be able to
Yeah.
get the word out to
I
get
think
as many as
that's
the
probably-
possible.
library too. Yeah, the library will need time too.
Yeah, I'll talk to them, and then maybe even if it's the week, like the end of that week, and it straddles
Mhm.
into like it's that 20th to 25th time frame.
Yep.
It could. So let me talk to Kate and get back to you guys about timing. But as long as we're sort of before Labor Day, we're thinking that's good. Okay.
Yeah, because like Denise said, we don't want people aren't going to come pick it up Labor Day weekend.
Right.
They're not going to be around or whatever. They may be around, but just not want to do it.
Right.
So we'll do it before we get to that weekend.
Okay. So in that case, so we don't compete with ourselves in terms of the photo contest and launching that, it's a little bit of a different audience, obviously. So we can have some overlap, but and the other thing that is in our favor now is that the grant cycle is later. So instead of our focusing, we can focus on this in September as opposed to the September. You know what I'm saying? Sorry, I've had a long day. So, and originally we talked about the photo contest lining up with Norwood Day to be like at our booth and showing these things off. But that's cutting it a little. Norwood Day is not happening, obviously. But that timing is back to school after Labor Day. So I guess I was thinking mid-September for the photo contest. What do you guys think about people's frames of mind? And I know it's kids won't yet be back in their schools, whatever that's going to look like. So maybe it's I don't know. Just thoughts. I'm looking for your thoughts.
Well, what if we launch the photo contest and give it a full month for entry? Because some of the photos that, like, I'm thinking in terms of a photo contest, like late September, October, when we have foliage and it's the beautiful time in New England, that would be a great time to get a bunch of photos. But
Sure.
we can, something like this that's virtual and that is a submission thing. Usually with grant cycles, they're held open for, or contests held open for a month or even two to get the submissions and allow the most submissions possible, and give people the opportunity to get different types of signs. And then we can close it mid-October before the grant cycle opens or whatever the case may be.
I like it. And we could use it as a way to plug the grant cycle too, or raise awareness about it. We could, as we're finalizing the photo contest, we could say, and this is starting next month or wherever we're at that point. We can sort of plug that, what we're working on. I'm good with that. So maybe launching it mid-September and then closing it out, announcing winners in mid-October.
That's just 1 month. So you're talking about 1 month or 2 months?
No, just, I was just saying in general, grants can be held open and contests are held open for months on the end. So, but for our purposes, we don't want it to drag into when we have to review all the grants and do all of that kind of stuff
Right.
because
Yeah.
the logistics of this.
And do we need
So-
professional assistance on like for them submitting their photos? I know like when I have to submit photos of artwork, it's got to be a certain size. I don't know about that.
Good point. Yeah, I think we should have that language whenever we announce it. We should say, you know, and that's not my first language at all, but I could figure out.
Or we could get, somebody, maybe even Ernie could help with that, or somebody. Also, I think we mentioned talking to a lawyer about whether or not we can use somebody's photos in this contest for
Well,
our own fundraising.
I think we talked about sort of having a
Well, something
clearance
in sign,
language.
but we have to make sure that's a kind of legal kind of document or something, right?
Okay.
So when we do all of the submission paperwork, so when someone submits something, it has to be in our language that we will use this for. It has to be language in there. So upon submitting your work, you are already upfront and know that this artwork can be used for NCC purposes. So that language just has to be drafted for the submission for when people actually submit their entry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't know if we needed any particular legal help for that.
Well, what I can do, Mary Paz, is create the language we think we need and then run it by Tony. And if he feels like he needs to run it by the town council or whatever, then he can do that. And we can.
That's good to me. We also have to start contacting potential judges.
Yes. So, and we can do that as a subcommittee. But if anyone has any ideas for Norwood celebrity or notable or artist judges.
Oh, Ernie Bach, of course, right?
Sure, yeah, Ernie Bach and Ernie Petchka. It's the Ernies.
Petrovsky, yeah, another Ernie.
Bob the mailman.
What's that?
Bob the mailman.
Oh yeah, Bob the Mailman. I thought he just like moved on.
Well, he's just had a different route.
Oh, okay. I like it. There's the Martini Man on this end of town. Do you guys know who that is?
Yep.
Yes, yeah.
Every day.
Helen Little, we talked about with the Norwood Art Association. We mentioned
Helen Little. Yes, Ellen Little. Sorry.
Maybe we should just go through this list in subcommittee and maybe have people submit names or whatever, and then let's talk about it.
Sure.
Let's talk about it offline.
Okay, if you think of anything, you can email it, send it my way. But we're just trying to represent, you know, some of the civil servants as well as folks around town. So we'll probably just have 5 though, right?
Yeah, sounds good.
Is that a good number? Okay. I think that was it for the photo contest, and then we have addendum. I do have one thing for addendum. Does anybody else have anything about the photo contest? We're talking about mid-September to mid-October for that. And we'll have another subcommittee meeting for the details on that. Great. So does anyone have any addendum that wasn't included in the agenda? Okay. I just wanted to put on your radar that I've had a couple of conversations with Tony Mizuko about the interns that were hired as as an outcome of the Peace and Justice Vigil. When was that? Was that in June or July? So there's some kids that are working on with Let's Talk Norwood. I don't know if you've seen that. They're on Instagram. They're interested in doing a mural project around racial justice and just celebration of diversity, which lines up nicely with some of our priorities.
Great.
And I had reached out to Tony to say that maybe this is something the Cultural Council could help with, just in a broad sense. I don't know if that means giving them some money for the project or guiding them through a grant proposal or whatever it may be. And we haven't had a meeting yet, but I did share with them how to make like a public art proposal, the components of that, so that they could go to collaborators or building owners if it is going to be a mural project or something like that. So that is something that we might want to put a little bit of money towards, or put some of our kite foundation or donations toward. That's just sort of a TV, a TBD, and something that could be coming forward to us. That's just the nascent stage that it's in now, but just a heads up on that. And I know we've talked about murals before.
Are they
So
doing it this fall or in the spring, or do they have a timeline?
yeah, I don't know any of the details. I know that I haven't been in on the detailed conversations about it, but just that it's an idea that is out there. So
That's great.
hopefully we can help out in some way. I'll keep you posted. And maybe they would come present to us, at our next meeting. I could offer that, so that we all can ask questions. So we'll see. Anybody else have anything? Thank you all for your time tonight. 8:20. All right. So with that, I'm going to find the little button that ends the recording.